Hello and welcome to a Broadway Family Karate video tutorial guide. Tonight we'll be looking at material for our black belt students, our A lesson for our summer term, second training period. Okay, first thing we're going to focus on tonight is going to be Po-Eun Hyung pattern for this term. We're going to be looking at the three merits of a good pattern, which are good technique, power, and focus. So the first one we're going to look at is going to be good technique. We are going to focus first on stances, then blocks, and then finally strikes. Now, on our first training video, we did go over the names of the techniques. We will not be going over those again today. If you needed some refresher on the names of the techniques, you can go back to that first video, watch that. We will be going over the names of the stances in Po-Eun Hyung. So we're going to go through the pattern several times. First time through, I will be naming the names of the stances as part of good technique. Okay. Again. Between our hands high. I will be running through the pattern, nice slow speed, naming these stances. And again, L stance, one leg stance, horse stance. Okay? And we just remain in the horse stance through this entire sequence. So do make sure that you're in a really good horse stance. You're going to be here for a little while. X stance, L stance, closed stance, horse stance, X stance, L stance. The other side, L stance, one leg stance, horse stance. Same thing, we're going to be in the horse stance for a while. Get comfortable, make sure it's a good one. X stance, L stance, closed stance, horse stance, X stance, L stance. Okay, Po-Eun Hyung, naming the stances. Stances are really important. You need to make sure you're in the correct stance. If you're not in the correct stance, the techniques are not going to be correct. Okay, next thing we're going to look at, good technique, we're going to look at our blocks and our strikes. I'm going to go ahead and just count our way through the pattern this time. Nice and slow. Try to focus on your chambers, both your blocks and your strikes. Okay, get in a good chamber position. Your techniques are going to end up being a lot more correct. Okay, Po-Eun Hyung. Okay, my count, focusing on good technique, stances, blocks, and strikes. Okay. And begin. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Okay, next thing we're going to go ahead and look at, we're going to go ahead and go to the second merit of a good pattern, which is power. Okay? Once we have technique down, the stances look good, strikes and the blocks look good, we can start adding power to our pattern. Very important, we want to go quicker through the techniques. We want to have a little better snap, okay? But we don't want to go so fast that the techniques get sloppy, okay? So it's a fine line. You want to make sure, add the power, but you want to keep the pattern as clean as possible. Okay. Po-Eun, Hyung. Okay. Not going to count this time. I'm just going to go through the pattern. I'm going to go a little bit quicker. Okay. I'm going to keep the good technique. I'm going to add power. So first and second merit of a good pattern. Okay. And begin. Hey! Hey! Okay, that was Po-Eun Hyung. Second merit of good pattern, adding power. Last merit we're going to look at, the third one is going to be focus. The focus can be a little tricky, but basically it is looking at what you're doing, looking where you're going. So you know, Po-Eun is kind of side to side. It doesn't have a whole lot of turns, but that just makes focus a little trickier because focus does change in small ways, and you want to make sure that your eyes are moving to where they need to go to for your focus. So we're going to run through Po-Eun one more time. I think a little bit slower. I am going to try to emphasize my focus points, okay, where my eyes are, turning my head before I move to each side. Okay. Not going to count through, just going to go ahead, no count. Okay. So Po-Eun Hyung, good focus, and begin. Hey! Hey! Okay, that was Po-Eun Hyung, pattern for this term for black belt students, looking at 3 merits of a good pattern, good technique, power, and focus. Okay, our first formal hand technique that we'll be looking at today will be the low Hammerfist strike from the X stance. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the X stance before we even take a look at the technique. Now, we transition to the X stance out of the horse stance. I'm going to go ahead and step into the X stance. As you can see, my feet are crossed. My weight is on my front leg. My back leg is up. You do want to have your knees bent and do cross your legs. Do make contact with your leg. That'll make your stance a whole lot more stable. You want to be real careful that you're not leaning forward, especially with the technique. Don't let it pull you off balance. If you're having a lot of problems with your balance, just bend your knees a little bit more. That's probably the problem. If you're straight leg, okay, it's a really difficult stance. Just go ahead and bend the knees some. Okay, so just a quick look on the other side. Said the weight's on the front leg, the back leg is up. I cross mine right about at the knees, and just bend both of those bend both your knees. Just kind of sit down into the stance a little bit. Okay. Take a little practice. Once you get it down, it's actually a fairly stable stance. Now in Po-Eun Hyung, we are transitioning to the X stance from the horse stance. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that transition before we even look at the low Hammerfist strike. So I'm just going to put my hands on my hips. We're just going to practice going in each direction. I'm going to start here in my horse stance. I'm just going to look because I'm moving in this direction, and I'm going to step across. Okay, so my weight is on my back leg. Okay, as I step through, I'm going to go ahead and transfer that weight to my front leg, and my back leg is going to come up in that tiger stance position. Okay, so my weight is here. As I step through, I transfer my weight to my front leg, bend both of my knees, and just kind of sit down into that stance. Good cross. Okay, so going the other way, it's the same way. Step across, weight is on my back leg, transfer my weight to my front leg, come up into that tiger stance, just kind of sit down into the stance. Okay, that is the transition from the horse stance to the X stance. Now, we're going to go ahead and look at the chamber for the low Hammerfist strike. Really important that you get your chamber correct, because if the chamber is incorrect, then the technique is going to end up being incorrect. So we're going to go ahead and sit down into that horse stance. We're going to start by going to our left. So I'm going to my left, so I put my left hand up, and it's going to be a fist. My right hand is going to be open in front. Okay? This is my chamber position for the low Hammerfist strike. So as I'm going to my left, this is how I want my hands to be set. Now if I'm going to my right, we're going to flip them. So I'm going to my right hand is closed as a fist. My left hand is open in front. Okay, the open hand is always in front. Okay, going this way, closed fist, open hand. So you'll be able to know which direction you are moving by which hand is closed and which hand is open. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the actual technique. It's actually kind of a big, kind of flashy technique. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get into my X stance, just so I do not need to worry about moving my feet. And I'm going to go ahead, start into that chamber position. Right? And I bring my hands circle around. My hammer fist, my closed fist, is striking into the palm of my hand. Okay, so I'm starting here. Okay, big circle, and they meet right here. Okay, as you practice this technique, go ahead and start real slow. Okay, just so you can actually hit your palms. Seems like that should be an easy target to hit, but as you practice, you'll see that it's not. Now, also be real careful that you're not breaking your balance with the technique. You want to make sure you keep nice and upright. Okay, so I need my strike to be right about there, a little bit below belt level. Okay, so that is the chamber and the basic technique of the low Hammerfist strike. I'm going to go ahead and work this a little bit on each side in the air. Then we're going to use this on a target. Okay, so I'm going to start by going to the left. Okay, hands up, fist, right hand is open. I'm going to go ahead and look to the left. I'm going to go ahead and transition into that X stance and do my low Hammerfist strike. A few times. Go to my left. Good. One more time. Okay. Going to my right. Right hand's fist. Left hand is open. So I look. Step. Big circle. Strike into my palm. Close. Open. Look. Step. And strike. One more time. Set your hands. Get your step. And strike. Okay, we're going to go ahead and look at this technique on a target. Have Mr. Booker step in, and we're going to be using a long sword as our target. You could probably use different things. I think this is going to work well because this is really going to kind of concentrate scooping the target into your strike. So we're going to go ahead and start already into our X stance. So we're going to step into our X stance. I'm not going to be moving, so we're going to keep it simple. I'm still going to get my hands chambered. Okay? I'm striking to this side, so fist and open. And I'm just going to come through and strike. So capturing with my open hand, striking with my hammer fist. Set those hands right. That's the most difficult part. Coming big, sweep through, and strike. One more time, and strike. Once you're getting that down, you can go through a little bit faster, add a little more power. Okay? Strike into the target. Okay, once you're doing that well stationary, we're going to go ahead and transition from, make sure I'm going to get distance, the horse stance, like in Po-Eun, into the X stance. Then do my low hammer fist strike. So I've got my hands are set. I'm in my horse stance. I'm going to go ahead and look, step, and strike. And go. Start off slow. Once you get a little better feel for the distance and the technique, you can add a little bit of power to it. Okay. I'm going to go on the other side. Let's go ahead and demonstrate on the other side. This is the easy side. This is a little more difficult. Same thing. We're going to go ahead and get those hands straight. Like I said, that is the most difficult part. I'm going to go ahead and start stationary, just coming through, striking. Okay. Into a target. Once I feel pretty good, I can go ahead and a little bit more speed and power. Okay. For my transition, I'm really not even moving this foot. My foot on my right foot is actually staying right there. Okay, so I'm going to go for my horse stance. I'm going to look towards the target. I'm going to step into my X stance. Low hammer fist strike. And go. Okay. Once you feel comfortable with the technique, add a little speed and a little power. Good. Sir. Okay, that is our first formal hand technique, the low hammer fist strike. I do recommend kind of working with the footwork a little bit separately. Get the transition to the X stance down, then add your low hammer fist strike technique. Okay, the second formal hand technique we will be looking at today is going to be the C block. We normally see the C block out of an L stance, so we're going to take a quick review, make sure everybody is in a proper L stance to do this technique. I'm going to go ahead and shift over to the side so you guys can see me from this angle. Okay, C block. Feet are together. Okay. I'm going to take my right leg, I'm going to go ahead and step out. I'm right on a line, a seam of the floor. That helps really a lot, setting up the L stance to make sure your heels are together. Okay, both my knees are bent, and I've got about 70% of my weight on my back leg, which means I should be able to pick up that lead leg fairly easily. Okay, if I'm having to transfer my weight back in order to pick that front leg up, I've got too much weight to the front. Okay, both knees bent, good L. Okay, about 60-70% of my weight on my back leg. Okay, C block, also known as the pole block or the stick block. We're going to go ahead and look at the basic hand position for this technique and the chamber and the technique. So for the hand shape, it looks a lot like with our hooking block. Okay, fingers tight together. I put a little curl on my fingertips like I do with the knife hand. Then my thumb is just out. Okay, we're actually striking. This is actually our striking surface right in here. Now you want to be careful that you don't get this little mushy C shape that it kind of compacts in, but it's nice. It looks like a knife hand strike, knife hand edge with your thumb out. Okay, you want it nice just like that. Now the chamber position is a little tricky for this. I'm going to go ahead and set up to the side. It'll make it a little bit easier to see my hands. So I'm in a right leg forward L stance. Got both my hands in the proper shape for the C block. And I'm going to go ahead and set them. Now the tricky thing is to get the hand set correctly. My front hand is palm down. My back hand is palm up. So palm down, palm up. For the front hand, this is our chamber set. This is our chamber position. For the technique, my front hand basically just kind of rolls over, and my back hand, okay, rolls over also, and about chin high, and the hands should be relatively over top of each other. Okay, so I want to start here. And make sure you're in a good L stance so this doesn't pull you forward. This can tend to pull you off balance if you're not in a really good L stance. So I'm here, so this front hand just flips over, and this back hand comes out over top. The hand should be relatively over top. Now if you notice, I've got a thumb on this side and a thumb on this side. So if my hands both flip, I end up with a thumb on each side. And in just a second, I'm going to have a bow there, and you'll see I'll have a thumb on each side of the bow. In our pattern, Po-Eun Hyung, we transition into this L stance with the C block out of an X stance. So we're going to take a quick look at that. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm in my X stance. Okay? I'm going to go ahead, chamber my hands. Step over this way so I'm not stepping out of frame. Okay? So I've got my hands chambered for the C block. Okay? Of course, I'm looking in this direction. That's the direction I'm going to be stepping in. I'm going to step into my L stance, keep that weight on that back leg, come through with the block. So X stance, chamber, step into your L stance, C block. And go. My feet correct. Because that's the way it should be. I was stepping the wrong way. This leg's in the front. Okay, so as I'm stepping in this direction, this feels more natural. Okay, like that. That puts me in a better L stance too. Okay, that is correct. So I'm actually taking my leg that's behind, that doesn't have any weight on it, and it's the one stepping out into that L stance to do the C block. Okay, let's go ahead and look at this on an actual bow, on a stick. I get Mr. River, come on, to assist me. We're going to go and look at this as a stationary and with the step from the X stance into the L stance. Okay, so he's just going to go ahead and you're going to, on the air, do you want it in the air or on the ground? Okay, he's basically just going to keep it here. We're going to go ahead and start this nice stationary. I'm in my L stance, okay, got my weight on my back leg, and I'm basically just going to work on getting on target. As you can see, I've got a thumb on each side. I want to be careful that I'm not leaning, okay, not breaking my own balance, and just slowly just work on getting both of those hands flipped onto the target, okay? If you need to, flip just like that. Okay. Once you got just the basic technique down, you've got your hands are set correctly, you're getting them to the correct place on the bow, we can go ahead and grip the bow. So what we're going to do, we're basically going to start here. In our L stance, we're going to do our C block. Once we've got the block, I'm just going to basically just wrap my hands around the bow. Okay? This should give me pretty good possession of the bow. So we're here, C block, and grab. One more time, C block, and grab. Now the last thing we're going to do after we blocked and grabbed is we're going to go ahead, take the bow away. Of course, Mr. Berger just has one hand at the top, so it's going to be pretty easy. Usually, if they have a proper grip on the bow, and you have a proper grip on the bow, that you at least have 50% control of it. If you're just holding it with one hand loosely at the top, I just take it right away. So, good L stance, chamber, okay, C block, grab, and then I'm just going to step away, and I'm going to come right up into that high guard position. And if you'll see my thumbs, I'm in the Jun nigiri grip. So, as I come through with my C block, I've got a thumb on each side. Okay? As I grab and bring it away, I just basically just roll the bottom to the top. And I'm in my high guard position. Okay? Very embarrassing if somebody takes your weapon away from you. So when you guys are working the bow, work on your grip. Okay, now we're going to add a little challenge level. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go from the X stance into the L stance. Okay, get my feet correct. Okay, weights on the back leg. I'm moving my back leg into my L stance, and we're just going to start nice and slow. I'm basically just going to step into a good L stance and block. Just making sure I've got that distance correct. Okay, once I get a few of those down, and I feel fairly comfortable with the distance, I'm not leaning, I'm still getting a good L stance, I'll go ahead and do a good grip, block and grab, block and grab. Once that's coming along fine, I'll go ahead to the C block, I'll grab the bow, grip, do a good grip, and I'll go ahead and take it away. I'm here, block, grab, take it away. And as you notice, I go ahead and get a little distance. The bow's got some range. I don't want to stand right in front of him. I'm going to go ahead and take his toy away and get a little distance. Okay, so we are X stance. Step into that L. Good chamber. Okay, block, grip, and take it away. Okay. If you're doing the C block correctly, you will end up in that Jun nigiri position. Thanks, sir. Okay, that is second formal hand technique, the C block out of the L stance. Trickiest thing on the C block, especially when you're doing it in the air in a pattern, is getting those hands set straight. Your front hand down, back hand up. Usually once you get the chamber position correct, the rest of the technique flows nicely. Okay, our formal kicking technique that we'll be looking at is going to be the low section hook kick. Now the hook kick is a new kick that we're working on. We worked on this years ago, but I don't know many of our students have seen the hook kick. Now the hook kick is closely related to the side kick. So you're really not learning a new kick, you're actually kind of learning the ending of a new kick. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start this. It's going to look just like the side kick until the very end, which you can definitely use to your advantage. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to start by doing a quick review of the L stance. Heels on the same plane, both knees bent. You want to make sure you've got that good L shape. You want to make sure you've got the majority of your weight on your back leg. Okay? Really important when you're doing the kicks, you want to make sure that you're in a proper stance. Now, for the chamber, for the low section hook kick, it's going to look just like the side kick. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get on a seam of the floor. As you guys know, with a side kick, your kick travels in a straight line right down the seam. Well, the hook kick actually travels a little bit off the seam. Before we get to that, I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to go through the basic chamber position for the side kick and the hook kick. Good L stance. Okay. Same thing, I'm going to chamber this knee towards my back hip. I'm going to go ahead and pivot on that back foot. This all should look the same. as it does with a side kick. So we're just going to come up and get a good chamber. Okay. Now with the side kick, it's going to travel straight down that line. With the hook kick, it's actually going to travel off to the side just a little bit. You want to actually miss your target with the side kick part, and then you get them with the hook back. So let me go ahead and do a demonstration. Okay, this is my line right here. My hook kick's going to come off to the side, and then it hooks back into the target. So I'm actually striking the back of my heel. Okay, so I'm here, side kick, and then hook back in. It should be pretty indistinguishable from a side kick until that last hook in. So the chamber is the same, the kick starts off the same, it's hooking back into your target. Let's go ahead and demonstrate this on a target, and it'll make a little bit more sense what exactly we're doing. Mr. Booker? We're just going to use a long sword. Now we're working on the low section hook kick. This can work midsection into the body. It can work high section into the head. Okay? We're going to keep it simple. Basically what you want to imagine is this is somebody's leg, and I'm just kind of taking and hooking right through the knee. So I'm going to go and get set up. Okay? I'm in my L stance. I'm going to go ahead and chamber just like I am for my side kick. My kick's going to go off to the side, and it just hooks back into the target. So we're going to go ahead, go nice and slow. I'm just going to touch and push. So we can just work the basic distancing. It's actually a pretty close technique. And just really get a feel for the kick. The distancing is a little difficult because you're actually not getting them with the kick here, but with the hook back in. So we're going to work with that a little bit, okay? And just practice. Once you get the basics down, you kind of master the distance a little bit, you can come in with a little more speed and power. Okay? Good stance. Okay? Just like a side kick, hook in at the very end. Okay? Now, we're staying low section with this. I think we'll eventually work on getting a little bit higher. It actually is a fairly effective free sparring technique. Anything else we're adding with the hook kick? Okay, so set it up just like a side kick. You're missing off to the side just a little bit, and you're hooking back into the target. Okay, that is our formal kicking technique, the low section hook kick.